Yes, everybody, this is Jack Napier. We are live. Red Pill Reads number 14, The Wisdom of Psychopaths by Kevin Dutton. And with me today is none other than Ryan Stone again.
Hey, how's it going, Jack? I haven't seen you in like a minute now.
Yeah, something like that. It's so weird. Nice to see you around here. Coming often?
I'm just glad to see you're still around. The idea of having grown men reading books, it seems like such a simple thing, but the fact that you actually have to kind of drive it through YouTube videos, it warms my heart. It really does.
It's ironic, isn't it? Driving books via video.
Hey, as long as it gets people reading, whatever. Clean your room, wash your dick.
Maybe the song is going to be Books Killed the Video Star from now on. Let's hope so. So, Ryan, The Wisdom of Psychopaths, you have been recommending this book ever since the Red Man Group started. Why?
It was, so for those who know, who have done some reading on the Red Pill, there's this underlying thing that people call dark triad behaviors. I know Illimitable Man started on that. And that's the idea of psychopathy, Machiavellianism, and narcissism. The idea is that they're supposed to be a set of qualities that normally people don't have, especially with the Judeo-Christian morality, that allow them to thrive, especially in a world where people tend to get taken advantage of. Kind of like, arguably, you could say that's what modern man has right now for his lot in life. So I was thinking about this, and then I started looking into it, and then a lot of the stuff I realized, like, you have to say dark triad because it sounds edgy and it sounds cool and it sounds, you know, evil and very cool. But a lot of it, like, because you can't make somebody a psychopath, but there's parts of being a psychopath that are beneficial. There's also dangerous parts, but since we don't have the requisite brain damage to have those dangerous parts, it's a powerful tool. It's the same as how you have naturals who are 6'2" chads, and the only game they know is aloof because they've always had options. But then when real hardship hits, how they're kind of unprepared for things. Well, a psychopath is a chad in that sense, in a mental sense. So being able to take the good parts of that allows you to have a better going of it. I mean, narcissism speaks for itself. You need a healthy level of it because codependence is a huge problem among a lot of men, especially with the rise in narcissism among women. And then Machiavellianism, that's just planning and strategy. I've been in the military a long time, and just being able to plan your way through an event is important. And so I kind of took those together, and it was hard to find things. Like I said, Illimitable Man had his own like introduction to these things. You can always read the prints, but it's a little bit abstract, I guess. And then you also have 48 Laws of Power. Again, fairly abstract. So eventually I actually came upon this book, and this was good because it made it more practical. All Dutton did was he went and he talked to actual psychopaths, and then he asked them about various things. And then I took some of those ideas, and then I see how they can map to the concepts of our daily activities and see how they map, and they map extremely well. And so I've been recommending it ever since.
And the funny thing is, like you mentioned, he just talks to psychopaths, and he starts the book out with, "My dad was a psychopath." It's like, well, good start. At least he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, fair enough.
I don't know if you remember that. Like, his old man was a psychopath who sold things on the market in England. And there were 11-month calendars.
Mm-hmm.
And then he just sold them, telling people you can get an extra 12 months. He just flipped the script into something positive. It's a weird story, but he just did that. About the psychopaths, you mentioned the positive things about it. And in the book, he goes into the 5 personality traits. Now, that's conscientiousness. Let me check because I have it here.
Oh, yeah, the psychological big 5. Oh, let's see if I can do these top of my head again. Conscientiousness, openness. You take over the next 3 because I'm stalling right now.
Extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism.
That's the ones.
Yes. Jordan Peterson has a whole test on this with hundreds of questions.
Well, yeah. There's it's the MMPI-2, I believe, is how you test for these.
Mm-hmm.
There's another one out, but I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. But the idea was you take your MMPI-2, and that's where they ask a bunch of questions that are catered towards seeing whether your trait openness is high or low, neuroticism high or low, agreeableness. And then there's a second part, and this is where you meet the experts. And this is where they, because they take into account that some people lie, they say what they think you want to hear. And so they actually have questions in there designed in such a way that, like, if you're answering yes very strongly to these 4 questions, but you're answering very weakly to these next 4, then that means you're most likely doing this to give a response that we're looking for. And therefore, this means that your conscientiousness is, or your agreeableness is higher, but the other thing is lower. So it's like this weird meta way of looking at the questions. It's really cool. If you're ever bored, I'd say it's more fun than doing your MBTI and screwing around on that front.
Yeah, you can do a test on his website as well, wisdomofpsychopaths.com, and well, I was like 95% psychopath or something like that. And you mentioned Machiavellianism as well, and a lot of people I notice get those two mixed up, because Machiavellianism is mostly the intelligent part of what you think would be a psychopath, because most psychopaths can be
Impulsive.
very impulsive, very extroverted, and what's the word again? Promiscuous even. And when you think about
Trying to
somebody,
describe my stepdad, Jesus.
well, maybe. And Machiavellianism is the absolute other way around. So I would think that being a psychopath doesn't necessarily make you manipulative or even intelligent. Do you?
No, not at all. It's just impulsive and lacking of empathy, essentially. Present day hedonism, it's all part of that. But that's the thing. And I know there's no medical definition for sociopathy or sociopathy, but I like using that better because that at least implies it's a learned trait. Because let's face it, psychopaths, you can't teach a psychopath.
True.
Either you have to be beaten up enough as a kid that you're missing that part of your brain that is empathy, or you just have to be missing it when you were born. But you'll never become one, no matter how much you want to be. People just aren't, well, they are wired against it.
But isn't that the thing? Like, sociopaths are made and psychopaths are born. That was the main difference, right?
I agree, but that's the thing. And that's the hard part, because they don't really, like, sociopaths, one of those things that they haven't defined in any medical context. People have come to understand it that way. So I always hesitate using that, because then it makes it sound like you're mixing up science and pseudoscience. But I mean, in this case, screw it. It's a shorthand term. It kind of gets the point across. Amoral, not immoral. Sociopath, not psychopath. I can deal with that. Good enough.
Yeah. And the strange thing is, like, when they do these tests, you would imagine that somebody knowing that he's being measured as a psychopath and being a psychopath, he would give the wrong answers.
Yeah. Well, here, you want a science fiction reference in this? You remember Blade Runner, how they had that void comp test?
Yeah.
I can't remember where I saw it, but when Dick was talking about, when he was writing the book and talking about the void comp, it was similar, where obviously their replicants would try to lie in order to sound more human, but the test was designed in such a way that if you weren't a human, you couldn't lie about it well enough, like the lie would be detected. And that's really what MMPI-2 is geared towards, is trying to find, like, to get the actual honest answer out of somebody, even if they don't want to give it. So testing somebody that doesn't want to be tested. Now, whether it's effective or not, you're going to have to ask a shrink. Maybe Dr. Smith.
Maybe I can get him on sometime. But what do you think are 1 or 2, 3 of the most desirable traits a man can learn from a psychopath?
I'd say the number one is, do you remember the section in there where they were referring to the that forklift torture with the big cement block?
Yeah.
Yeah, so for those, if you're listening and you haven't heard it, it was an experiment. Well, not an experiment, but they would take a big piece of styrofoam that looked like a giant cinder, or like a giant cement block, and they put it on a forklift, and they would slowly lower it onto people. And what they were finding is that normally wired people, as it was lowering, it gave that sense of dread, and they started getting more anxious, more anxiety, and the heart rate started going up, all that stuff. The difference between them and psychopaths was the psychopath didn't have any reaction at all. It could be an inch away from his chest, slowly lowering, and nothing. And they eventually sorted out the reason why is because the way the psychopath's brain was wired to treat that situation. And in his case, it was, well, right now I'm not being crushed, so I'm fine. Like they literally lived in the present day. When a normal functioning person was thinking about what's going to happen in the future. This thing will follow me. It's going to kill me. And that creates the anxiety. I would say the best lesson, at least the one I took away, was that. Just dealing with what's right in front of you with the exclusion of what you worry might happen later. And you see that manifest everywhere. Guys that don't want to approach because they're worried about getting rejected. But it's always some like nebulous rejection, not just a girl saying no and then walking away. It's always got to be some existential fear, or a guy who's afraid to tell his wife no when she's spending him out of house and home because he's worried that, you know, she'll leave and take the kids, because apparently that's how flippantly if somebody can dissolve a marriage. But I'd say that would be the biggest one. I really can't think of a second or third place. I'm gonna have to pump that one off to you. Like, what would you say is your biggest?
Well, before I get into that, people listening, you can continue watching this conversation on Patreon /Jack Napier 368. Please leave a comment and a like, and I will see you there. The most important thing I got from this was, and the funny thing is that you mentioned that they live in the present moment, but there was also a test in there where they had to share money with somebody else, and the money would be divided, and sometimes the money would be divided unequally, and if they didn't agree, nobody would get anything. But what most psychopaths did was they would even take the lesser half and get the most of it in the long run. Even though it wasn't separated equally, they calculated it to the end. Like, if I say no, I'll get nothing. So I better say yes, so I get something.
Right.
That was something I got from this as well. Like, even though the odds are against you at that moment, it won't mean it'll be against you later on.
Oh, yeah. I forgot. This is nice. I haven't read it in a little while, so you're kind of reminding me some stuff that I'd forgotten about.
Yeah,
I did forget about that one.
It was the Ohira and Osumi test. Like, they started out at 50-50, then it went to 70-30, then to 80-20, things like that. But psychopaths just kept on playing because they know that in the long run, they get it. They get it anyway. And the agreeableness part, and the funny thing is, but though, that I keep mentioning funny thing, which is annoying, that I now became self-conscious.
That's your verbal tick?
Yeah, I became self-conscious about that right now. God damn it. But when I did the Peterson test, my agreeableness came out at 3%.
Oh, yeah, I'm low as shit too.
And in the book, he mentions that as well, that most psychopaths are, well, they fight the established order. They're not agreeable in anything. They just go their own way. Mm-hmm. And when it comes to a guy's life, he should embrace that. Like, mental point of origin, it always comes down to that. Like, when you're in a conflict or things like that with your wife or your spouse or whatever, what's in it for you? If you really don't want to do it, you don't want to go to a Christmas dinner, you don't want to go to some stupid birthday party, just say no.
Yeah, and hold to it. That's the funny thing. And I love that because that helps refine priorities. If you think about it, and I'll always talk with clients and they'll have this, well, I want my wife to have sex, or I want to have sex when you ask them what their goal is because their wife's not having sex with them. I'm like, fine, we'll go get a hooker. Well, I don't want a hooker. Well, why don't you want a hooker? She's going to give you sex is the quickest and easiest way to get out of your system. And then you realize, like, they say, no, I don't want sex, just sex. I want sex with her. I'm like, all right, fine. We'll just have her lay there and do some duty sex or whatever. And no, I don't want that. And then, yeah, as you have these, like, what do I want out of this scenario? And then as you get pushback, people start to refine what they actually want. And then you find more often than not, for a wife example, the end of the day, what they want is her to be emotionally invested and to desire him sexually. Mm-hmm. When it turns out all he says he wants is just to get his dick wet and to get laid. But what he actually wants is a form of validation. And then there's something you can address. I mean, in that case, it's that you really don't want validation. And then once you stop wanting validation, you're actually more likely to receive it. So it's always nature's cruel joke. Like how the psychopath always ends up winning in the end on those games, even though he's the one that really cares about it the least.
And that's the weird thing. because in the book it's mentioned this as well, that even though they can't feel or they lack empathy, that doesn't mean they don't feel, because psychopaths do feel. They just can't understand the feelings of others, but they also cannot understand that somebody can acknowledge what they are feeling, which ends up with the psychopath being always lonely because he cannot comprehend anybody ever feeling what he feels. Because of his own lack of empathy, he does not know people can have empathy for him.
Yeah. Which makes sense. That's natural for people. They always project themselves onto other people. Oh, actually, that's kind of an interesting thing. I never thought about it that way. Like how cheaters will always assume you're cheating, thieves always assume you're stealing. The psychopath always assumes that you have no idea what he's going through. You just can't understand. God, Mom, you just don't understand me.
It's not a phase, Mom. It does hold it holds a kind of truth. It actually makes it pretty scary, and though I kind of felt for them. Like, wow, you cannot comprehend anybody, not even your parents, feeling sorry for you. You will always be alone.
Yep. But that's just it. And they have no frame of reference. So at some point, and this is something I brought up from a lot of people talking about their little nice middle class childhoods. Mine was a little on the rougher side. I didn't want for anything, but like I said, the stepdad and the upbringing was fairly brutal. But that's the thing. I never really had, like, for my first parents' divorce, I never really had a frame of reference for it. So as a kid, and you see a lot of parents worried, like, oh, if we get divorced, our kids are going to die. They're going to be horrible. Like, no, you are. Like, they don't know what normal is until you show it to them. So for a lot of these guys, I don't even want to say I feel sorry for him. It's kind of like a rabid dog. Like, yeah, it's not his fault, but he is rabid, so I kind of have to give him arm's length. But at the same time, I don't feel bad because they don't really know what that feeling is anyway. So it's not like they're missing something. Does that make sense? I think I'm in a bit of a rambling mode right now.
Maybe, but I still enjoy it. But I didn't quite get you there. Like, you feel sad.
Like they don't have a frame of reference, so they can't miss something that they've never experienced.
Oh, yeah, I get you.
Like, what's your favorite part about the moon that you miss? And you can't say anything because I've never been.
Yeah, like that. No, absolutely. Like, I'll get into my Batman origin story a bit. Don't worry, not too much, but not too much. I had a parent die, and I get the question sometimes, like, do you miss them? And I'm like, well, I can't remember them sober, so I don't know what to miss.
Can I ask how old you were?
28.
Oh, wow, a little older. Yeah, my dad died at 18, so
Oh.
Same way. It's like I can't, like, people talking about being adults and connecting with their dads and that, I just can't associate with it myself.
And mine died on my 14th birthday.
Oh.
1 day after. Yeah, that was pretty cruel, actually. But yeah, people ask me, like, all the time, like, do you miss them? And I'm like,
it's a weird question, isn't it?
Yeah, it actually is, because they try to. I have to give an example with another example. I had a colleague who only worked with me for a week, and she was in a car crash, and one of the girls, the first thing she said was, I feel so bad about this. She didn't say, I wonder what the parents are going through, or I feel so bad for the parents. No, she said, I feel so bad about this. They never met, but she reflected it upon herself. And that's the feeling I get when people ask me that. Like, the only reason why you're asking me that is because you would miss your parents, and now you want validation from me saying, yes, it is normal to miss your parents when they die.
Yeah, and I can't fault them for it. That's all they know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a strange thing once you kind of see that for what it is. And it makes me a bit, I don't want to say jaded. That's a bit strong of a word. I can't think of a smaller word to mean jaded, but where you kind of start seeing these kind of interactions, not so much as you and the other person sharing anything meaningful. It's more so them projecting their emotional states onto you. Which I guess, I mean, maybe that is just how humans bond, is by that collective empathy sharing. I just find it a little. I really wish I had a word for it. If anybody in the
Agitated.
comments will have a word that means jaded, but to a lesser extent, please do.
Agitated?
Not even, because I don't feel strongly about it, but it does kind of. It takes the fun out of it, I guess is the best way I can describe it. Like how you see Matrix for the code. A magic trick's never as fun when you know how it's done. That sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Like when you learn game, you know where it's going.
Yeah. I love those, yeah, because then you have to actually start like making random rules for yourself just to keep it interesting and spice it up. Like how far can I take this before I get rejected? And then you start realizing like, oh, I can't even do this anymore.
Yeah, because you already know what's going to happen. It's like you've seen every movie.
Yeah. Yeah, the rejections, you kind of see where that's coming. And I mean, it's good too, because then you learn to stop wasting your time. If you know this one has always been a rejection in the past, you know not to keep plowing through it. Or if this one's most likely a shoe-in, but you're not really feeling it, then you kind of be like, yeah, maybe another time, and kind of walk away anyway.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I liked about psychopaths as well. They can just be emotionally distant and see the thing for what it is. It's the larger picture, at least for them.
Yeah.
They always are in that mental point of origin. And that's, I think, when guys can take away from this, is that focus on you and not necessarily always on the validation of others, especially in this sphere. It's like women this, women that, and blah, 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 blah. When will you finally get to the point that it's about you and you can't fuck every girl? You cannot. It is impossible.
I hope so. Otherwise, I've been wasting my life with the one.
And every POA who says he can get every girl he wants is lying.
Yeah, that's why I like guys. Troy Francis. I'm actually turning into a huge fan of his, because he kind of brings up that most of the time he's getting shot down, and a lot of it is a numbers game, and that coming to terms with rejection that sometimes isn't even your fault. I kind of like how he has that level of honesty about it. I don't know if you follow him much at all.
No, not yet. I haven't heard of him, but Troy, what was his name?
Troy Francis.
Troy Francis. I can remember.
Yeah, he's a London day game model.
Ah.
I try to keep, because I came from pickup, I always like to have one foot in there and follow the guys that are doing it now, because I always like seeing how it ended up. Because let's face it, Neil Strauss and Mystery kind of let me down at the second half of life after pickup.
Oh God, yes. Like, how is Mystery doing? Is he still alive?
He's still alive. He had a couple mental breakdowns, and I think he got a divorce. But I mean, he's doing better now. I saw a video. He's back up on YouTube. I've only seen the one so far, but to be honest, he hasn't looked like he's changed too much. He still talks about things the same way. He just got rid of the top hat and the aviator shades, shaved his head, but I mean, he's still kind of there. Way better off than Neil Strauss anyway, with that gong show of a life. I mean, it's good for him if he's happy, but I don't think I could want that for me.
Not me neither. I mean, Neil Strauss, yeah. I mean, we've all read the game. I'm never going to do a review about it, by the way, because it's a novel. The game by Neil Strauss is a novel and nothing more. Like,
oh yeah,
he goes into the pickup tricks and things like that. They're not even tricks. It's just human behavior. But he doesn't go into the why and how it really works. It just goes like, oh, I met these twins and I did this and now I have a threesome and woe is me because after all this mindless sex, I found a woman who I actually like. Okay, good for you.
Yeah, like I said, I liked it for that, just being a story about it. But until you get to the DVDs and that, you never really see what they were talking about and why they were doing it.
You have the DVDs?
I had them back, yeah, when I first started. It was 2005, 2006. I remember grabbing the Mystery DVDs.
Nice.
And then going from there. So it was like the entire workshop laid out over 10 hours or however long it was. Although it was mostly Neil Strauss. I think Mystery only showed up as like a guest for one of the episodes.
I never knew that.
Yeah, and then I had the game as like the book for entertainment. And in Canada, we have our comedy network. They had a show called Keys to the VIP. Mm-hmm. If you've never seen it, it was actually like a pickup artist TV show, sort of like a game show. Like you would get your 5 contestants or 3 contestants. They'd take them to a bar, and then the guys would give them challenges like get a number by telling a girl that she reminds you of your sister, or say you have a toe-sucking fetish and get a phone number, or And then occasionally a guy would actually take a girl home and then leave the show early. And then the guys would rate how well he did, how charming he was, how entertaining it was. And then the panel was hilarious. There was always Peaches, like the big football player, and then there was the artist, like all the different male archetypes you could think of.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably still on if you look for Keys to the VIP. It's always fun to watch. Like, you don't take it too seriously. It's the same as American Idol. It's not actually talent competitions. It's just people goofing around. But what can I say? I got some nostalgia for the Mystery Method.
Now, why not? I mean, maybe I should get more into that. I'm in that stage right now where, okay, I can do other things than running game.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's an excuse. I've been thinking about that. Like, am I making excuses for myself not to run game? It's more like, hey, I can be busy with my business, making money, things like that. I'm only 28. Like, I'll peak at 36. I still have a lot of time.
But then I wonder, like thinking about stuff that way. But you were saying, yeah, now I wonder.
Now I wonder if that's an excuse I'm making not to run game. Like, am I creating my own narrative just to get out?
Oh, well, you're self-aware at least, so even if you are, you're not going to be there for long.
Yeah, true.
One of my clients, he's a divorce guy. He has since, once he left once his wife left him, he kind of got back into it. He got himself plates very quickly. He was actually surprisingly switched on when it came to game. But he found it was kind of boring at that point. For him, it was just, yeah, I just maintained the plates. I got sex on the regular. And so he wanted to get into day game and night game. For him, it was just a challenge of something new. So literally getting into the Mystery Method, London day game model, and trying approaches in that. And it's funny because he was kind of a natural when he was single. So he never saw the need for this stuff, and he found it kind of goofy until I showed him, like, yeah, look, the point of it is to gamify dating. Because I got same way. I was 180-day sailing schedule a year. I would be in for maybe a weekend, and that's all I had. So I didn't have time to do dating in the traditional sense. So it was either this or I just go home and jerk off. And so for me, it just made it more fun. Otherwise, it was like I was wasting the very few hours I had at home before I had to fly off or sail off to God knows where.
But that's not a bad, how do you say that, activity to...
Oh yeah, it beats Jeep or jerking off in your living room, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Everything beats jerking off. Like, oh God. Like,
but
guys who...
And if you're bored, maybe. Are you bored with this? Or are you just kind of wondering if you're capable of it? Or are you just second guessing to make sure you aren't lying to yourself?
I think it's a bit of all. Like, I do notice, like, you mentioned something about girl game.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, you can't kill an idea. So I've been starting to look at that. I have a plate right now who's enthusiastic when she sees me. When I send nudes, within 5 minutes, I get them. So it's kind of a ride or die thing. And then I go to the supermarket and things like that, and I see this girl behind the register, and she's pouting and a frown and just looking like she's annoyed. And I'm like, I don't even want to run the game on you because your face is just screaming that you're not fun.
Yeah, resting bitch face, they call it.
Yes, absolutely. But then I wonder, then I wonder, is it because I have a plate who's at least enthusiastic, or is it truly that girls are hyperinflated and have too much resting bitch face? Or I'm just in the wrong neighborhood where there aren't many girls who don't have a resting bitch face. Funny thing is, though, I have my plate on Tinder for new girls. Ha! Try to beat that.
Nice. Oh, you got me beat there. But it's funny you say that, because when we're talking about girl game, resting bitch face and that, one of my favorite field reports for anybody red pill was this guy. He was 52, divorced, and he was getting back into the game. And so he had this same mentality where, like, are you just not trying with this girl because you got a good one at home? And it's sort of tangential to what you were talking about there, but I thought it was funny enough to share.
Mm-hmm.
So he didn't know how to date at all. He had no game. He was in decent shape. And so what he did is he just scraped the bottom of the barrel, the first thing he could find. He said it was like, this is my 3 or 4 out of 10. It was a pudgy Puerto Rican girl. Another one, he had like an older Jamaican lady with kids. And so those were his plates, because he was fairly well off, well-to-do, good shape, 10 years older than them. So for them, he was a catch. and he had them, and he didn't really like them, but he also really didn't like not having sex. So what he found out, though, is as he was going out, he would be meeting cuter and cuter girls. But then the problem was when these girls would start having attitude, or he had these moments to himself where he thought, like, yeah, she's a lot hotter than, I can't remember the girl's name, the one I got at home, but like, is she that much hotter that I need to put up with this? And it switched his mindset to the point where he would just blow off sevens because he's like, whatever, I got a 4 at home and it's way easier than your crap. And then what he noticed is as that was happening, girls started changing their behavior towards him because he, from his body language and his subtext, he made them qualify themselves to him. So like resting bitch face and stuff just wasn't going to work, and he would just get bored and move on. And then subconsciously, girls, the way he put it is, girls took that as a challenge to start stepping up their game. Because I don't think girls can't have game. It's fairly easy for women. All you have to do is be generally pleasant, sexual innuendos, dress seductively, and some, good eye contact. For the most part, that's all you really need to get a guy. And then if the guy has any amount of game, he'll take it from there. So I always wonder, and I hate projecting what the thoughts are of women, but if a girl looks like she's really not into it, it's because she has no game, or does it just take the right man to bring it out of her? But I think you're on to something, though. You got the right point where it's just, you be your regular, charming, personable self, you lovable asshole, and if a girl doesn't respond to that, well, there's more girls. You can't fix everybody.
Mm. Well, not necessarily there's more girls. It's more like I can do other things than entertain you or any other woman right now.
True.
You should be entertaining me. Like, maybe that's psychopathic traits. Like, you're here for my entertainment, not the other way around.
Well, that's the thing with everything. Like, narcissism gets a bad rap, but they forget narcissism is a diagnosis. It's not a disease. Like, you can't catch narcissism. All that narcissism is you take healthy male qualities and you make them pathological. And how you define pathological is up to a bunch of statisticians and psychologists who essentially look at the entire population. They notice where the bell curve of a certain behavior is, and they pick a point, care if it's 2 or 3 standard deviations from the norm, and they say anything past there is diagnosed as crazy. That's essentially all it is. Like, if everybody was a raging narcissist, that bell curve would be shifted, and then at that point, codependence would probably be a more prevalent problem in our day.
And isn't that the main difference, by the way, between a dark triad person and an only psychopath? In the book, and then page 63, because I wrote it down, what I noticed, yeah, of course I did. What I noticed is that pure psychopaths are you familiar with the RK selection theory?
Yeah.
Like, real psychopaths, only psychopaths, are very R selective, like short term.
Yep.
And as soon as you get a dark triad, Machiavellianism, psychopathy, and narcissism, that's way more case selected. They plan ahead a lot more. They're more calculating.
They're strategic.
Yes.
I do like that. And that's the one thing that any of those psychopathic traits kind of help with that, because the problem with being just strategic in your thinking is that you'll endlessly put up with pain in the short term for a reward in the long term. But if your long-term plan isn't well thought out, that short-term pain is just going to turn into long-term pain. And so I find the psychopaths need to live in the now and have present-day hedonism. It puts a counterbalance to that, which I kind of enjoy.
Absolutely, because it's what we mentioned, keeping boundaries.
Yeah.
Like, the psychopath part of the dark triad gets that going for you.
I would say
it's a lack of empathy that makes you set those boundaries and live up to them.
And that's the thing too, because we can never really get rid of it. You can't stop being empathetic just because you're saying you want to be lack it. So you kind of have to just compartmentalize it, or at the very least stop projecting your empathy onto others. I think that's probably the best. There's probably the best takeaway from it. So, like you were saying earlier, how that friend of yours from work or whatever, she was like, that makes me feel bad. So she projected her feelings onto everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
especially if you're an insecure guy, that's going to be a bad idea. So at least getting rid of that pathway and stop projecting your insecurities onto other people as their insecurities, which I guess it's a healthier way of manifesting psychopathy. That's interesting. Anyway, I don't know. It's a thought. I'm curious what you think on it. I'm at the point now where I start looking up and thinking about it. That's my nervous tick. So,
well, it's a good thing. It's like not speaking before you actually have anything really to say, I guess. I mean, we're in a bit of a situation right here because I do that as well. I just look up at the sky and think, and then this silence falls where we both do it. It's like,
Yeah, well, that's why I like these things. Like Carl and I have the same thing when we do Red Morning, where, like, I know some people get the impression that we're talking about something. We already both know enough about Wisdom of Psychopaths. We're just giving the bullet points for other people who haven't read it yet. But a lot of this is, like, you're teaching me parts that I hadn't considered, and I'm hopefully doing the same to you, or same with Carl and I, and we're talking about things. Great example was our first episode where I was talking about relationships being game on hard mode. And then after kind of hashing it out, I realized it's not really that much harder. Like, it's the same fitness routines, the same plate management. The only difference is he has multiple plates versus me, who just has one at this point. But all the work is identical. And the worst you could say is that he at least can block a plate for a while, and if he wants to be unattractive, do that on his own, where I don't have the luxury, which isn't really true either. Because even my girl, she'll crash on the couch. But the point of I'm rambling. The whole point of the story is it's really nice because these kind of conversations, and yeah, we'll have those awkward silences where we're both thinking of a point, but you really are seeing people kind of learn more about things as they go. And I find these are great. And I really need to do more of these with you. I'm not going to lie. You're going to have to do delicious tacos one of these days.
Oh, I can do that. Or just ramble on certain subjects, not necessarily a book, because those things are nice as well. I had the best talk with Rolo that wasn't about the book. And with you, just before we started as well, we just kept on rambling about politics and things like that.
Yeah.
Like, you can go on and on and on and on about everything. There's a certain how do I say that again? Like in Dutch, it's raakvlakken. I don't know what the English is like. You hit certain points with each other. It's like things you have in common. I love your remark, by the way. You love water. I love water. You love air. Look, seriously, if you ever come into the situation where you're single again, you will be nauseous on what you'll find on Tinder. Love food. I'm like, but of course you love food. How can you not? You need it to survive, you dumb twat.
Dude, I think I'm going to be one of those boomer types that just avoids online game altogether. I think I'll be one of those just daytime approach type people. Which, I mean, I don't know if that's going to be a good thing or bad. It's probably something I'd have to get into, but because when I got out of the game, it was just as OkCupid was big. So I completely missed Tinder. I've never had a Tinder account. I've never used it. I think I viewed it for my brother once or twice. He would show me how it works and how fast he would swipe girls left, and Carl and a bunch of other guys in the Red Pill show me it. But yeah, the more I hear about it, the guys who love it, and the guys who don't love it absolutely hate it. But the reasons that they love it and the reason that they hate it are reasons that don't really appeal to me. Like, I don't want to have Uber Eats Pussy Edition. Well, the sex wasn't what interested me about pickup. It was always the chase. I found that most sexual experiences with girls tended to be middling at best. And I used to have way more fun just approaching a girl and picking her up, and that little initial anxiety with if this works out or this doesn't, that was exciting. Even the ones that were bad. Like, I remember I talked about this in my very first email. I was picking up this girl at the bar who I'd already slept with, but I totally didn't recognize her until about halfway through my set. She's like, "Don't you remember me?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" It's like, "Yeah, you were inside me before." I'm like, "Oh, oops, sorry about that."
But did you get her again?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. I never knew the end of that story.
Oh, yeah. See, that's the thing. That's the part of the story that's like the least interesting. So it's the part I don't really tell.
Oh.
Because it was just average, like whatever. Completely forgettable experience. Yeah, so I just like Chase. Same as I think psychopaths. They aren't ego invested in any particular result, so long as it helps them in the present day.
Mm.
And sure, you can plan for some future events you want to have, but it usually doesn't surround the girls anyway. Like, there's never been any long-term goal in my life that had a girl as the centerpiece to it.
No. Like with psychopaths, it would be just lust, I guess. It will be
Yeah.
at this moment I long for that, and you are the nearest thing in my environment, so you'll do. And after
Yeah, you're
that, this
hungry,
is
you're at the grocery store, there's the sandwich, go to town.
yeah, and that's about it. It's very direct.
It's hard to bullshit yourself with it, I'll give you that.
Yeah. How awesome would it be? Just just catch.
That's the question for you. If you could flip a switch and turn into a psychopath today, would you?
Yes. There is no doubt in my mind. Like I'm already mentally damaged from my youth anyway, so that switch won't do that much,
Yeah.
except for the complete lack of empathy and more living in the now, which I would like because my head spins a lot. It's like, okay, I have a plan. This plan must work. What must I do today to make the plan work in the future? And I just work myself to death and find out I'm way ahead of schedule and I have to stop because I can't continue because I have to wait for something.
Yeah. You gotta pace
You know
yourself,
what I
man.
mean?
Pace yourself. I do.
Yeah,
I used
like
to do
that.
that too. A lot of the time when I was first in the military, I had that same kind of get it done now attitude. And then I always got mad because everybody around me would tell me to slow down and take your time. And I never understood it until eventually, like you said, you'll burn yourself to red line, but then you end up stalling and waiting and getting anxious that things aren't moving now because you have to wait for somebody else, as opposed to just taking a more deliberate approach. Take your time. Like, it'll get done. It took me a long time to get there though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
But I think
same.
that just comes with either age or finally you burn out after running yourself on the red line for so long. You're kind of forced to learn it. So we'll see. If you get a heart attack by 31, we'll know which one it was.
Well, glad to hear that. But you're absolutely right. It's like people tell me, "Oh, why won't you slow down?" I'm like, "Why won't you hurry up?" Seriously, that's my train of thought. Like, you can tell me to slow down, but why aren't you hurrying up?
It's a good question. Although some people just won't. I don't know. It's the one thing. It's one thing that bothered me the most about big organizations and the 9-to-5 cubicle lifestyles. It's very hard to synergize with multiple people because all it takes is one person who's slower than average to completely grind everything to a halt.
Mm-hmm.
And mentally, I just never found it healthy to kind of put pressure on them to perform because they fight every step of the way. I don't really have a point to that one other than, yeah, I just learned to slow down a touch.
Mm. And that's one of the reasons, and he mentions that in the book as well, like why psychopaths can thrive in an environment like that. Because we've been talking about psychopaths maybe a bit too much to the negative side, but there are so many positive sides about being a psychopath. Like the most surgeons and lawyers and other doctors tend to have a high score on the psychopathic tendencies just because of their lack of empathy and living in the now and being goal oriented.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They don't buckle to any type of pressure because to them, it's not pressure. It doesn't even register. Like, yeah, this patient could die, but right now I'm just having fun with this scalpel. Like, they don't even look at it as a person. It's a piece of meat.
Yeah. It's
the
a
lawyer
puzzle.
doesn't think of it as it's somebody's life on the line. He's just like, all right, I make case A to judge B.
It's just a puzzle to them, especially these brain surgeons. They're like, yes, it is a living person, but I don't feel anything for them anyway. I just have to make this tick at this certain rhythm, so I have to connect this vein to that, and okay, done.
You make it sound like you're putting together Legos.
Yeah, well, they actually experience it like that. He has an interview with a surgeon, and he actually mentioned it like that.
Yeah.
Like, you want somebody on that table who doesn't care if you live or die, who just wants to get the job done, which means you live.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Nobody wants surgery from Lenny from A Mice and Men. You remember that book, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I have it here, but I haven't read it yet. But would you flip that switch?
That's a question. I asked you, and then I realized like I don't have an answer to that. I would, if it happened, I wouldn't be mad about it. If I had it and I could turn it off, no. But I don't. Then again, you're at the same point here. Carl brought this up where he, me, I guess you now, and Tristan and Andrew Tate, blunted affect, he calls it. You've been exposed to such high levels of high stress type stuff for long enough, you eventually just kind of mute it all and it gets turned down to a 2. So it's almost like the switch is there, but more of a dimmer switch. Would I go all the way? Yeah, fuck it, why not?
I think
Could be fun.
I think the loneliness will be the worst part about
we all die alone anyway.
Ooh, cold.
Well, you're only as lonely as you feel. There's guys that are alone that aren't lonely. There's girls that are alone that aren't lonely. And there's people that are surrounded by people that are lonely. So clearly lonely is an internal state. It doesn't matter what you're surrounded by.
Good point.
At least that's my thought on it.
No, well, it's a good thought because even though psychopaths don't, I mean, they have the lack of empathy, which makes them incapable of knowing other people feel empathy for them.
Right.
But like you just mentioned, there are people who are in social groups and still feel lonely.
Yeah, and I wish I was smart enough as a doctor to understand the mechanisms there. I'm sure there's some explanation in a couple studies here, there, or somewhere, but at that point, is like happiness is if you decide you're happy and you make yourself happy, you'll be happy. So happiness isn't really a concern. It's all internal. Yeah. I know it sounds a bit wishy-washy, but I would say fulfillment is that kind of thing you have to work for. And by flipping that switch, would I get there more so than I have now? It's a good question. Yeah, fuck it, why not? At the very least, it's a new experience.
Yeah, but then the question is, will you be able to flip it back? Because we haven't established that. Like, is it permanent?
Oh, I would generally say, is it permanent? Usually when people give that whole, if you could flip the switch and become a woman tomorrow, would you? There's never even any consideration that it would only be a temporary thing. Why would temporary would be a no-brainer. If it was temporary, 100%. You could tell me anything. Would you want to turn into a woman or a psychopath or anything temporarily? I'm like, yeah, sure. Who doesn't like a new experience? I don't see what the big deal is. Why do I have to make my bathroom sink look like a garbage fire? Let me see.
Can you imagine what Tate's answer would be? Like, would you be a woman one day? No, why would I want to be inferior?
He would probably call me a homosexual for even asking him the question.
That's the first thing that came to mind. Like, you mentioned Tate, and it was like, what if we asked him that? It was like, why would I want to be inferior? God damn it.
That's what I like about Tate. I know he's kind of a polarizing figure, and say what you will, but he knows what he wants, and anything outside of that is irrelevant. Oh, he wants hot chicks to make him money. He wants a good lifestyle where he gets to buy a ton of fancy toys, and he wants to play chess. As long as he's got those 3 things sorted, the rest of it's irrelevant. He'll say some things just to get a rise out of you because it's entertaining for him, but beyond that, he just doesn't care.
Yeah, he plays the game well. Like, that Star Wars tweet just exploded.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which I found funny, and I love the original Star Wars anyway. But it didn't even faze me because I knew exactly what he's doing, and then watching guys actually get mad about it. That's why I liked, what the hell's that comedian's name? Chris Isla or whatever his name is?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he just retweeted on. He's like, oh, this is the funniest thing I've ever seen. So he got it. He realizes he's just fucking with people. But then everybody had to take it all personally.
Like, Tate has some psychopathic tendencies, you know.
Probably. You can't punch people in the head. You can't have an abusive father in your life and not gain some of them. I'm living example.
I love the Batman lunchbox.
Yeah, that's my favorite story of his, and I think that's the one that people reference the least. They all focus on the car or him going to a nerd's house who was making fun of him and doxing him and wanting to fight him outside or whatever it was. But it was that one. It was kind of like a caring but an uncaring dad at the same time.
Oh.
Like, I had that too. My stepdad, he was I can't remember how we worded it exactly, but it was when I was 18 and we almost fought, him, me, and my brother. And he said, you're not an old man until you fight your old man. And I was like, what a fucked up thing to say. But I kind of get where he was going with it. That's the weird thing. Like, I understand the logic.
Huh.
It's not Jordan Peterson level wisdom, but it makes sense.
But you see Jordan hitting somebody? I mean, come on.
I don't see anybody from Toronto hitting anybody. This is Soy Town.
Yeah, but isn't that like I've got the phrase from you, so you have to correct me if I'm wrong. But isn't that La Rochefoucauld who said any man who is not capable of being evil will never be capable of being good?
Yeah. Oh yeah, you're good means yeah, and it's so many different ways. Like Peterson talked about it as you don't want to be a rabbit is useless. So if a rabbit is virtuous, nobody cares. Foucault got it from there, and then you go back further. I think they got it from Twain, and Twain got it from De La Rochefort, Continental Enlightenment stuff, a French guy. And I'm pretty sure if we go far enough, I guarantee there's something from Marcus Aurelius in there too. But it's just one of those things. Yeah, it only matters if you're doing it on purpose. It's like that master and slave thing. Are you doing this because you don't have a choice, or are you doing this because you do and it's a gift to somebody else? And that's just like anything. Nobody cares if you give them something for free. They have to earn it.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that is the biggest thing that guys can take away from this book, as in embrace the darker side of human being. Like, you want to be good, fine, but first learn to be bad.
Yeah.
Like,
have a stomach for it. None of that secret king, like I could. Oh, just wait. Like, don't seethe about it. Actually have, especially if you have dumped something crappy in the past. That's why I like, what's the other one? Bobby Dino, the ex-con that we have on there on Twitter right now. So yeah, he's done some shit. So when he starts saying that he's being kind, you can at least add some weight to it.
Yeah, true. Like, he would be able to crush you.
Oh, it's probably because he's like 6'7" and he knows how to make hooch on a radiator.
Oh, damn. Damn. Wow.
Not everybody can crush it. That's the thing. I don't like that, where everybody thinks like this guy's bigger and stronger. The way modern society is, between knives, guns, and just crazy people on PCP, everybody is capable of killing everybody. So I almost don't factor that in to my interactions. Like, everybody can. Maybe I'm just as deadly as you. I don't know.
Who knows? I think you're deadlier, by the way. You were in the military, so I don't have that.
It was the Navy, though. It's the fattest of the three elements.
It's the fat military.
If you're in a boat and I have a 50 cal, then you're pretty much fucked. Outside of that, it's a bit of a crapshoot.
Nah. Like, isn't that the? And I'm trying to put this to the whole alpha beta dichotomy. I know you hate it, but please hear me out on this one. Like, the whole chest banging, being loud, look at me being alpha, and then trying to threaten someone into submission without even knowing who's in front of you. Like,
oh, it's horribly short-sighted.
Yeah, like look at him being alpha. And Eliminable Man had a great post about this. Like, there's a difference between being alpha and being stupid.
Well, that's the thing, and that's why I hate when people make alpha into an archetype like that. So you kind of touched on it perfectly, so that's why I'm not going to shit on you. It's a narcissistic fantasy where people think of alpha, and you ask somebody, what's an alpha male? And in their head, they almost all universally say the same thing. The guy is 6'2", with a lantern jaw, like a big square jaw, muscular, aloof. Like, they build up all of these things. Like, this to me is what an alpha male is. And then they go forward assuming everybody else buys into their little fantasy. And when somebody doesn't, that's when you get narcissistic rage, which is exactly what you said. The guy who sits there amogging and beating his chest to other people. It's basically screaming, like, you will recognize that I am this narcissistic fantasy I built for myself. And nothing makes them madder than not acknowledging it. But then you think about it, like, if you were to take those qualities, the alpha male being aloof, women want to be, or women want them, guys want to be them, and then you map that into the real world, what kind of people match that? And you're seeing a lot of people that don't fit that stereotype. Like, you'll see rock stars that are skinny as a stick. They aren't aloof. They're very emotional. They're very needy, but they still achieve those same alpha male end results. Same thing as a drug dealer. So many guys that look like absolute trash getting all kinds of crazy tail and are extremely deadly, and they have that to them, but they don't fit that. Some guys are even fat and do that, like Biggie Smalls, all over the ladies. Doesn't lift, not once. Vladimir Putin, supermodels on his side when he's doing his thing. Just looks like every other middle-aged Russian man. And so that's why I find I don't like it as an archetype, because people always fill it with what they think it is, but they aren't. But since they've never been there, they have no idea what that means. Like, they have no frame of reference to what an alpha male would be. So they always map it incorrectly, and they always make these weird, and it's always got to be unattainable. Did you ever notice that?
Yeah.
Yeah, when people make alpha male, it's always got to be something that it's impossible to achieve anyway.
And the strange thing is that most tail, as you just mentioned, is going to mediocre guys. So I'm wondering, is it the tail that's just mediocre?
Everybody's mediocre.
Yeah,
By
true.
definition, at least half the people are below average.
True.
And granted, like, when you want to use Rollo's hypergamy thing, it's in a social in any social grouping, 80% of the women are shooting for the top 20%. Not that they're getting them, not
Oh,
that that's all they'll do, but that's where they're hardwired to kind of shoot for. And then the reciprocal, the bottom 80% of men are usually fighting over what's left, but that's not it. You can be an average middling guy and you can pull tons of tail. I'm living proof of that. Because
True.
at the same time, we aren't just a single tribe of apes in a savanna at this point of 150 people or less. We have multiple social spheres of influence. You'll have your job, you have your hobby. If you're a rock climber, you have your rock climbing community, even the online internet community. Like Carl, never shown his face, still gets nudes from girls.
Really?
Yeah, all of us did. Even me, before I went live, there was like girls flirting with me in my DMs on Reddit and all that stuff. It's just, as soon as you make a hierarchy, there's going to be some people at the top of it. And we have so many different ones. Like, if I go to the bar, that's a separate hierarchy. If I go to a restaurant, that's a different hierarchy. I go out boating with my friends, that's a different hierarchy. At work, different one. Corporate, different one. Online, different one. So we have hundreds of different social hierarchies that sometimes are just there for a moment, sometimes they're more permanent. And so you can't be alpha male in all of them. But you can be a top 20% man in at least a few of them. And as far as game goes, if you want to maximize your chances of success, you just find as many different social spheres as you can and get to the top of as many of them as you can in the ways that matter. Even those guys that do esports, you watch these goofy Korean 18-year-old nerds, and they got hot chicks swinging off of them.
Mm-hmm.
Or that guy that ditched his Mexican weather girl because he wanted to play Call of Duty.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
All you got to do is win in something, and you will be somewhat successful. And that's where that situational alpha, that sigma male stereotype came through for the kind of guy who is that top 20% in multiple social spheres, and then how he presents himself to the ones where he's not is what threw people off. It's like, I don't get it. Like, Steve is the captain of the football team, and he always brings the hot chicks, but Anthony here, he's just kind of the nerd that draws on his sketchbook all day, and he brings hotter chicks than he does. How does that happen? But they forget that, Anthony is a DJ at the nightclub on Thursdays. And so over there, he's king dingling. So that's why I don't like that idea of the alpha male, because it's unidimensional. I'm going to use some Jordan Peterson smart terms. It's unidimensional. There's so many different facets to it, and people are complex enough that it's almost impossible not to carve out some level of success, barring hideous deformities. And if that's your thing, then that's a little bit out of my sphere. So I don't know. Maybe there's deformity game. I just don't know it. But most people aren't there. A vast, like 97% plus of people aren't in that situation. Actually, no, 99%. Because if you think about it, the gay community is about 3% of the population.
Really?
Yeah. I know a lot of people try saying it's as high as 10. Let's meet in the middle. Let's say 5%. That's 1 out of every 20 people. And out of the gay community, gay and lesbian, a small percentage of them would be what you would consider trans. And think about how much visibility they get right now. And I think incels, to a large part, are in that same boat of a extreme minority given extreme levels of attention. And it's just like Carl says, that most times if you just lift and work out and eat right to the point where you look good with clothes on, not even clothes off attractive. Get your mind right. Get yourself right economically. Like you don't want to be broke, but you don't want to be rich to the point where all you signal is beta bucks anyway. You get all this basic stuff in order, you're going to carve out a modicum level of success.
So hold on. My $3 million house isn't doing shit for me.
Oh yeah, that guy, Mr. Vancouver. Which is weird too, because a $3 million home in Vancouver doesn't mean shit.
Oh, wow.
That could be a shanty town. Yeah, and it bothers me because it's like you said with was it here or before we went on where you were talking about that, how you like being able to get things done, being fairly goal oriented and solving problems, and people just don't.
Yeah, like
that was off camera. That's right. Yeah.
Like it can be collected in why are you going so fast? Why aren't you hurrying up? Like things like that.
Yeah. It's not even so much like slow and hurrying up. It's just like do anything versus doing nothing.
Yeah, and I've been noticing that, especially in the sphere. Of course, the sphere is meant for that, but the end goal is way different. Like they're still so focused on women, and I'm like, okay, but can you name me one woman, or at least some random chick? Can you point to her and tell me that she will be of actual value to me more than what I can do for myself? And it maybe sound MGTOW, but it's more like they're not that special.
Yeah. Well, it's like food. If you're not hungry, food doesn't matter. But if you're starving, that's all you can think about.
Yeah. Like you can get girls, you can get food, but I'm more into the finance part right now. Like I want to have my finance in order, and girls don't fit into that right now. Unless you're Tate and you have a very strong pin pan and you let them cam and things like that. Like it's fucking brilliant, by the way. Truly, the first time I heard it, I was like, God, why didn't I think of that?
Oh yeah, and when it comes to the manosphere, you think about all these guys trying to help guys. It's the one guy who's like, if you're going to be a beta male, fine. Here's something for you. Like he's literally monetizing male sexual frustration. I got to give him credit for that. I mean, it's a huge market. Clearly, it's much easier to talk a guy out of tens of thousands of dollars by offering him his blue pill lies, more so than it is to tell him to hold him accountable to getting himself better and earning it himself. So
yeah, but what is the red pill really for, guys? It's like work out. No, how do you always say 2 rules? Be attractive, don't be unattractive. Done.
Pretty much. And it's a simple statement, but it's very deep. And once you start applying it to different avenues of your life, you find how deep it is. Job applications, how you handle the workplace, how you get projects done. It's always about being attractive and not being unattractive.
Ah, like be capable.
Capable. I put capable as a 3rd place. Because that's my thing. When I first joined the military, I was pretty much topped everything. I was the best of the best for what it counted. I mean, it's the Canadian military, so whatever. But like top of my classes, shining star, lots of potential, always switched on. Never was the guy you found in the drunk tank on the weekends. You never had to get a call from me for being late. Always switched on for parades, all that stuff. And it didn't even matter. Like I was getting turned up for promotions because they wanted more female representation in the forces, that's what they wanted. They wanted more francophones. So just by being fluent in French, and anybody who joined from Quebec would automatically got on an English course, but English people joining wouldn't get a French course. Even if you went to Quebec, you just kind of had to learn it. Mm-hmm. So already an entire province of people were given automatic preference in promotions, as well as certain gender demographics were getting preferences and promotions. And it seemed like, actually, here's the 3rd part. It's called bun fights. It's that old thing that they used to do where they would get all the chiefs in a room and they would hash out between all of their different subordinates who were the best ones on the ship. It was literally an old boys club. I mean, literally. And so I take all these things together and you take all of that, and I realized the only thing that nobody ever discussed was job performance. So I don't think competence is really that strong. Once you get past the bare minimum level where you're not making things worse, I think past there, it really doesn't matter.
Isn't that a psychopathic tendency as well? Just play to the man.
Like seems to be working. Can't argue.
Yeah, like keep them distracted from your work. As long as you're charming, attractive, not be unattractive, they don't mind what you do as long as you're there.
Yeah. Well, as long as you don't make their life harder.
And didn't you say that once as well? They don't care that you do it; they care that you get caught.
Oh yeah, that's a running gag. A lot of the guys were saying that, even for the Canadian decoration, which is 12 years of service. That's this one, and they always say that's for 12 years of it was really catchy how they put it, but 12 years of not getting caught, essentially. And so that's always the running gag. And then you get a little band on it at 22 years, and then again at 32 years. It's like, wow. Met a guy, he's like, wow, 32 years of never getting caught for your shenanigans. And he goes, yeah, what can I say? I'm clever. Everybody knows. It's at the point where it's almost a joke.
Well, it is. Like, I have that in the workspace as well. Like, they got these stupid rules where they only want you on business on the internet. If they find you're listening to music or whatever, they just they get their drawer out and they spank you on the hands, so to say.
Right.
I just keep doing it, and they look at me like, that's not allowed, right? And I just look at them. Well, I never got caught, right? So either you have to snitch on me, and I know you snitched, or you're just going to walk away. And usually they just walk away.
True. Well, that's just it too. Like, I assume you're useful to the company you work for.
Retail.
Yeah. Well, whichever the name of it is, I didn't want to go personal on the names. So if you're useful, they don't really apply the policies. They're not really, they look like rules, but they're not. They're selective rules.
Mm-hmm.
And I found for a lot of companies that make policies that are extremely restrictive or fairly complex, they don't actually want them there because that's how they want employees to behave. They want them there so they have ammunition if they decide that they don't want you there, or they do. So it gives somebody a justification, same as a lot of things for the National Defense Act. If you ever read that, which is the main law that military members are held to, there's always a stipulation that discretion is given to the commanding officer. So that means if he decides that you were conduct unbecoming, then you're conduct unbecoming. Which also means that since he doesn't know who you are, he has to take recommendations from his chief, who takes recommendations from your watch supervisor, who takes recommendations from your normal supervisor. So all that essentially says is these laws apply in these specific cases, or if my boss decides that they do. And it was a neat. It was a neat way of looking at things once you realize that they're just subjective. Like, there's no objectivity to them. As much as you talk about rules and laws, they're subjective. And a lot of laws are written that way. Some are hard and fast. Like, murder is fairly straightforward. If you murder somebody, well, as far as the law is concerned, like, I'm not talking about how war doesn't count or self-defense doesn't count, but it's more codified. But I find for the vast majority of things, there's enough wiggle room that if somebody wants to make it apply, they can make it apply. And if they don't want to make it apply, there's always a justification for that too. I guess in a way, it's how you can see if you have value, whether the rules start applying to you or not, and how forcefully they do.
Not a bad point, actually.
This is not a recommendation for you to start breaking laws, though, just to test that.
No, the thing is, I've already been doing that. Like, when I was in school, like I mentioned that before, I'm kind of I don't do well with authority. And it's like, you have to do this. And I'm like, why? Because I don't see the reason for this. And it turned out that even if I did it or didn't do it, the end result will be the same. So I knew they were just using a form of power to let me do something. And as soon as I got that, I just didn't do it because the end result will be the same. Like, I know you're trying to play me, so I just won't admit to it. I have math teachers who try to do things like that. Like, no, I want you to show me your homework. And I'm like, yeah, but this grade has no effect on my graduation. So bye.
Oh, you want a story on that one? That's hilarious.
Yeah.
All right. So PLQ, that's primary leadership qualification. I was on that. My roommate, awesome guy from, I think he was PEI. Anyway, so we actually did this thing where we look through and we first get down there. It's like you're doing basic training again, but from a leadership perspective. So everybody gets in there. They're folding their socks. They have the nice smiley faces. They're ironing their clothes. They're putting them in the thing. He and I just went to the dry cleaners, picked everything up, threw it in our closet. And everybody was like, what the hell are you guys doing? Like, the inspection's coming tomorrow. Like, yeah, they're training us on how to give inspections. We're not actually doing one. Like, what are you talking about? Your locker looks like a bag of crap. And so we pulled out like the syllabus where they actually show how you're being graded and how your performance objectives are met. In nowhere in there did it say you actually needed to have your equipment maintained. It wasn't a mark anywhere. And I remember this because it was hilarious because she was the P1 that was doing the instruction or doing the inspection to show us how they work. And they would take people through, and you would do this over the course of it. They came into our room, and she's in there in her dress whites talking about, like, you're supposed to check this, and this is how you check a rifle. My roommate's rifle was so filthy that she had to stop the inspection to go change her shirt because she just got crap all over it. So he got top student because he focused, and he literally did. Like, if it was something that was a mark on our evaluation, he did that 100% the way it was asked to be done. Not the way he thought it should be done, not the way that it was best done, but the way that it was required to be done as per the regulations. And we both did that, and it's amazing. I actually had to take a dive because I didn't want to be, if you, for the part where we were teaching drill, if you did a good enough job, they actually put you on our main celebration parade. They made you like the parade commander or all the other prestigious positions on there. The problem is they had a lot of extra work. So right at the end of mine, my drill was on point. My instructions were on point, everything. I took a dive on the last like 5 minutes worth. So just so I could get underneath that threshold. Yeah, so that's the same thing. It's this, and it was just, I didn't want the authority with it. It didn't have a mark attached to it. So why would you do it? Like, nobody asked for it.
Oh,
You could say personal pride, but
and as soon as you get that, and well, for guys listening, take that from psychopaths. Just be your own authority. Like, sometimes you just have to crap on authority where you have to call out their bullshit and not literally call them out on it, but just don't do the things you know that won't matter to them.
Yeah, act accordingly.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. Like, especially in school, like, teachers always try to force you with false threats and things like that. But as soon as you know they're bluffing, like, they lose all their power, all of it. And teachers hated me for it. Teachers absolutely hated me for it. And I was like, well, I'm not doing anything that is against the rules. So you can't hurt me.
Yeah. It must have been nice to have teachers that actually gave a shit, though. Mine were usually out in the back smoking pot, and the math teacher, I didn't even know math. The computer science teacher, I had to teach him how to program.
Really?
High school was, I don't know how people could say they peak at high school because I found it was a dismal experience.
You had teachers smoking pot?
Yeah, well, I'm from small town BC, right? So
I thought Canada had a decent education system.
I've heard the same thing. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I really don't.
Like, I can imagine little Ryan sitting there like, I heard this was supposed to be good, but I'm not seeing it.
Oh, I just shook my head. Like I said, I had no frame of reference. So for me, I just, like, one of my teachers, I remember this. We have this place in our town. It's called Radmacher's Farm. My stepdad actually owned it. And that was the party spot because all the runoff from the logging roads would make these giant ditches that you basically needed a 1-ton truck to be able to get through. And the cops didn't have vehicles that could get through there. And it was private property, so we'd always party up there. It's like 10 kilometers up a mountain, by the way, which is hilarious. The fires have been going for like 20 years. And I remember seeing one of my instructors there. For some reason, he took his bicycle. I don't know why. And then when he tried to drive home, he was so drunk that he crashed and broke his arm. And I remember seeing him at school on Monday, sitting there with an arm cast, and the students were poking fun at him about how he broke his arm. So yeah, that sums up my high school experience in a nutshell.
Oh, God. Wow. I didn't even want to talk about my high school. I hated it. That was before I started self-development, so you really don't want to know that. At least I'm not telling it on camera, by the way.
Oh, fair enough. We all have our own hidden secrets, and in mine, as my pothead teachers were partying with the students and breaking themselves.
Oh my God. Like, I had on my high school, like, 2 times a year, some teacher would get false allegations.
Oh, wow. I think we had that once in 5 years. I couldn't imagine it happening that often.
Oh, we had twice every year. It was insane. But everybody always knew they were false because you looked at the girls who were alligating him, and you look at the teacher and you were like, yeah, no way in hell that this is real. She just got a bad grade, and usually it ended up her being called to the office, told she shouldn't be a cunt, and then everything was over.
Fair enough. Out of curiosity, did you find that drove a lot of guys out of teaching?
Back then? No.
Yeah.
No, absolutely not. The reason guys are being driven out of teaching, at least in my experience, because I tried to become a teacher, is just the abnormality of ideology being forced down your throat. Like, as a man, being a teacher, it's also soft. It's very how do I say that? Pedagogic. Like, you have psychology, and for children it's pedagogic. I don't know what it is in English, to be very honest.
I think pedagogy is the English word for it.
Yeah, pedagogy.
Yeah, the method and practice of teaching, academic concept,
Yeah, that one.
linguistics and linguistics.
But it's become very feminine. Like, all the guys I had in class back there were just, yeah, I'm sorry for saying this, but they were just faggots. They were just high feminine faggots with bare guts and high voices, things like that. We're all far on the left. And I remember,
that's so weird.
I remember one of my teachers high-fiving a girl in my classroom because she was a single mom, and she threw out the alcoholic guy whose child she had, instead of asking, okay, when did he become an alcoholic, before or after childbirth? Which question I did ask, but wasn't taken very lightly.
See, I can remember. Yeah, I can remember my elementary school. It was the complete opposite. I remember at one point there was some students getting into a fight, and I don't know why, I still remember it. But the principal actually grabbed the kid who started the fight in a headlock and dragged him to his office. Like, literally dragged him.
Nice.
He's a tough guy. My grade 5 teacher, Mr. Galvin, he actually was Navy, a sailor. He's passed on now, but I remember he used to send me all kinds of books about Navy stuff once he found I joined. And he was literally a drill sergeant. And then he was my 5th grade teacher. And he taught like it was drill.
Nice.
I guess they just don't make those anymore.
No, absolutely not. Like, most of my teachers were females.
Yeah, I never liked my female teachers. When I was young, they kept sitting me next to the East Indians, which always bothered me, and I don't know why.
Are you racist?
No, I'm not racist. It's just I think it was the miscategorization that bothered me.
I'm not Indian.
Yeah, because like I've had pictures of them up occasionally. My dad's a redhead. My mom is Portuguese, fairly dark, so I'm kind of in the middle there. But as far as I've known, I've always been Canadian. I'm like 4th generation Canadian, so putting me with some 1st generation guys with very thick accents, it just, I know, as a kid, I never liked it. And I remember I asked the teacher once why you keep doing that, and they put me in detention for asking. So
really, they did that?
Yeah, keep in mind, this is like 30 years ago, so I could be mistaking the facts a little bit here, so bear with me.
Oh,
I don't think about school much at all. It's only because you started bringing it up now, I'm trying to reach into the memory bank and see if I can pull some familiarity here. Build some bonds on the podcast.
Well, for some odd reason, we are bonding.
Yeah,
but yeah,
odd reason. That's all it takes. Just talk with somebody like a human being.
Yeah, by God, it's not that hard.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes it can get awkward. Like, you have those where you're just in the gym and somebody starts talking to you, and I know, like, a big thing in the sphere is like, keep eye contact, but there are a lot of people who I don't want to keep eye contact with, you know? I'm just like, oh, don't talk to me. Don't. Like,
oh, they're kind of more annoying than anything?
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's one thing I'm blessed at. My gym, it's usually guys I run into that I like. I actually have a guy, my neighbor's name is Chad. I'm not catching him in the gym. And he looks the part, too. It's hilarious. Yeah, there's a couple guys that are transit cops, normal cops. So I always like the gym conversation, but most of the time it's because I run into guys that are fairly socially adept, and they know to kind of keep it quick, do it between sets, and keep it light. Like, don't ask questions that require a 20-minute conversation because, you know, the guy still has to do 3 more sets of bench.
Mm-hmm.
I'm passing it off to you now.
Oh, you're passing it off to me. Yeah. Well, awkward silence. No, like I have my gym partners, and indeed, like in between sets, a couple of questions and move on. But at my gym, they also have how do I say this nicely? Like daycare for retards. No, seriously, like it's the low IQ and they're incapable of work, and they train there as well, or at least they do a couple of exercises. But a couple of the guys they escape and they start talking to everybody, and then it's like, oh crap.
Yeah. See, I think I can picture what those kind of guys are. I'm guessing they have like cargo capri shorts. They probably have a Popeyes. Or do you guys have Popeyes Fitness there? It's like a supplement store.
No,
But like
really.
a Popeyes Fitness protein shake in a cup.
Oh,
And it's
yeah.
always sitting right on top of the little stand on the bench press there.
Oh,
They
God.
spend more time talking than they do actually working out.
Yeah, we have those as well. But we also have, and this is something I am really annoyed by. We get guys in there who come over with their girlfriends and they do the same yoga Pilates crap that their girlfriend is doing while we are doing squat, bench, and deadlift. And they look at us like, oh God. And then their girlfriend is just moisting away on that mat, looking at us. I'm like, kid, don't you realize what's happening here? Just sad. It's really sad, actually. Seeing
I guess. I don't know, bringing your girlfriend, like I like bringing my girl to the gym when I can get her in there. But for the most part, I kind of ignore her once I'm there. It is very strange how he'd have those kind of worries. Why he'd feel the need to stare at you out of insecurity. And I guess the whole thing is just framed very strangely. And I have a hard time empathizing with it. Fuck, maybe I did hit that switch that you asked me about earlier.
Maybe we did. But the funny thing is, as soon as I started working out, what I noticed that it weren't necessarily girls looking at me, but guys mostly. It's like,
oh, probably.
Yeah, was like guys who were walking with their girlfriends and they just held on tighter.
Yeah, guys size each other up. It's just what we do.
Yeah, it's pretty gay, actually.
Yeah, I can see why guys do it, but I'm with you. I'm not really into mate guarding. I always joke around. It's like, yeah, if you can get her, I'll throw in the truck for free, right?
The only time I mate guard, and I'm very honest in this, my former STR, because it was only a year, so that's not an LTR.
Oh, you have been doing your research.
Yes, of course, of course. But there were 3 guys walking up to us, and well, there were kind of these. Oh God, how do I say this nicely? I can't say. They were from the hood, if you know what I mean.
Gotcha.
Yeah, like that.
Trashy.
Yeah, and they were looking her up and things like that. So it just tensed my lats as we walked by, and then they turned around and was like, "Yeah, you bet your ass, goddammit." But that was the only time I really mate guarded. And there was one time a guy whistled at her, and I just spanked her on their ass. No, I just spanked her on the ass when he did that. It's like, ha, thank you.
It's funny. I'm trying to think myself. I think there's only 2 times I've done it. Once was in Seattle when we had got back from the bar and we were at the hotel, and some guy just grabbed her arm and started dragging her away. So I chokeslammed him into a painting and cut my hand pretty bad. And the other time was when she was actually a plate, and we'd have sex before she went out to the bar. And so I used to just leave a handprint on her ass so anybody else could see that, I made my mark there. The only 2 times I can recall.
Like,
no, that's it.
But patting her on their ass is just, I don't know. I think that's just fun. It's just fun.
It is fun. You should honestly be doing it anyway. Any girl likes to be treated like a piece of meat from a guy that she wants to be treated like a piece of meat from.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And they want to.
Yeah.
Like,
well, have you ever tell me one girl that does not want to be thought of as sexually desirable, and I'll find you a girl that's lying through her teeth.
Well,
she just doesn't want creeps to do it.
Yeah. She'll only tell you if she doesn't like you. Like,
yeah.
I've had it one time. I had a plate and we were walking down the street and I smacked her ass and things like that. And her first response was like, "I'm not an object." And I'm like, oh God, really? You just took all the fun out of this. Like,
I just play along with that. See, this is why I tell guys to do improv classes. Think of that as like I've never watched Whose Line Is It Anyway? Same thing. Just don't disagree with it. You say yes and you go with it. Like what was it she said again? Like don't treat me like an object or I'm not an object.
I'm not an object.
Of course you're not an object. You're sweet and slap again or like you can take it so many different ways as long as you don't take that statement seriously because she has an emotion towards it and right now it's an anxious one. Now that could be a positive anxiety or a negative anxiety. But as soon as you acknowledge that, and you can acknowledge it by agreeing with it or disagreeing with it, as soon as you do that, you make that real, and that ends up sabotaging you. Where instead, you don't acknowledge it, but you don't invalidate it. You can actually make it work for you.
Oh, like that.
And it could be just simple things like, yeah, it probably is, and then wink.
True.
And that's a very unapologetic way of dealing with it.
Yeah.
Granted, I'm sure like you seem to have your own unique style, which is neat. I kind of wouldn't mind if you started writing field reports of your approaches and that. I'd like to learn a thing or two on that.
Oh, I can try again. I mean,
Yeah, well,
like this has been years ago. Like she got me into the red pill, by the way. This is the
really?
girl who got me into all of it. Like now, I've been
did she
purple pill
stab
for
you
years.
or what?
No. I've been purple pill for years, and then she came along, and yeah, I mean, this was so stupid. Like if I knew back then what I knew now, we all say that. Like, never mind. But she was dating the high school guitar player. He was in the band. Right. He was our Rolo. He was playing Guns N' Roses, had a Les Paul, stupid blonde hair, and a tattoo.
Rolo likes Ibanez, though. I wish he liked Les Paul. Then I could get along with him a lot better.
Oh, that's cruel. But
for a solid body, a flying V, we'd be besties.
Nice. But he does have a Les Paul, right? Like guitar players always have one of something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, usually he's got a lot of things he likes. But I'll never not make fun of him because of his love of Ibanez, which is such like an 80s hair metal guitar.
True.
Unless you're Joe Satriani, I don't want to hear it.
Nice. But what happened was he kept cheating, and back then, for some odd reason, I was the gay best friend or something like that. I was beta. I was blue pill.
Mm-hmm.
But she started to grow fond on me, and I was like, yeah, we're just friends. I'm not looking into this that much. But then I found Corey Wayne because a friend of mine got dumped. And he looked up how to get my girlfriend back and blah, 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 blah. And he was like, go watch him. Go watch Corey Wayne. I'm like, yeah, sure. I mean, why not? What have I got to lose? Right. And Corey was like, when a woman likes you, she'll put herself in your orbit. And I was like, really? Is that true? And that girl who I thought I was her gay best friend kept calling me and texting me and yada, yada, yada. And I was like, okay, when are you free to get together? And within 5 minutes, I had her entire monthly schedule. And I was like, oh, crap, she likes me. But she was still dating him. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to make the best out of this. So she cheated on him with me and blah, blah, blah. But what she does with you, she'll do to you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I wasn't prepared for that. So 2 weeks went by. No, we dated for a month. Then I didn't hear from her for 2 weeks. Then she came back and was like, no, I can't do this anymore. I just want to be friends. And I was like, I'm not doing friends. Fuck you. Bye. Didn't talk to her in like 6 months. Then she came back again, met her in a bar, started making out there. Week later, she was back in bed with me. 2 months later, the whole shenanigans began again, where I didn't talk to her for 2 weeks and blah, 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 blah. And she wanted to be friends again. And I was like, what the hell am I missing? I really am missing something. So that turned me a bit more to the Red Pill, 48 Laws of Power. Hadn't read Rolo's books yet. But then I got my STR from a year or something.
Right.
And she went back to her cheating ex. And that's when I found Rolo's books, and it was like, oh, so that's why.
Mm-hmm. So great selection.
It was a combination of those two that got me onto this. Then I started watching Redman Group, and I heard you talking about books and that you needed a guy who needed to talk about books, and here I am.
It's kind of a cool little story.
Ah,
it's definitely not as good as Carl's. He got stabbed in his, but...
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, Psycho's ex, they get emotional about it. That's funny, though, how you're kind of hooked on that up and down of the of the girl's emotional cycle like that. It's almost like a drug.
What do you mean?
Well, I've talked to a lot of guys do that same thing where it's like an off again, on again thing. It gets hot and then it tapers off. She gets bored, moves on. She gets bored of that, comes back. And it's the way they refer to it as a drug. And most of the time, the guys don't even acknowledge they're there until there's some distance and they've had enough time for it to wear off. And that's how they sucker us in a lot of the time. Because I mean, think about that from a guy's perspective. You stole a girl from another guy. Like if that's the equivalent of like winning a fight.
True.
It's an unbullshittable way of saying that I won and he lost and I'm great and he's not. And then if you're getting that multiple times from the same person, that gets that weird feedback loop going in your head to where you're kind of hooked on it. It's kind of the same reason that girls will come back to the guy that abuses them, like he beats me but he buys me flowers thing.
Yeah.
They're just hooked on that cycle of those highs and those lows, and it's an extreme level of it. It's another thing that's good from psychopaths, those impulsive ones that tend to be more on the violent side.
Yeah.
Because they also have good aftercare because they don't hold on to the grudges from before.
Yeah, and that's where you get the R and K selection, because the R psychopaths are way more impulsive and way more violent.
Exactly. Yeah, and then so you take that and you tone it down from like a 10 of like beating her and buying her flowers. You tone that down to just occasionally you're mean or distant, and then more often than not you're a fairly decent person to be with, and it creates a much healthier and a much easier to handle wavelength as opposed to those extreme ones that really hook those high dopamine requiring relationship people.
Yeah, like this time you don't hit her unconscious. You just hit her.
Just choke her till she shits.
Yeah.
This is what my buddy always used to tell me. Him and my plate, they both used to tell me at the same time. Oh yeah, just choke her till she shits. I'm like, what in the fuck are you talking about? But then I ended up plating that girl, and then she taught me what she was talking about. And I'm like, oh, okay, I get it now.
Oh God, did she shit?
No, but like you just can't be. Don't touch the windpipe. You kind of go like here or here on the sides. The idea is it's a control thing. You're not actually trying to strangle somebody, but if you're gentle about it because you're so worried that you might harm the other person, it kills the part of it that the girl enjoys. Yeah. You kind of have to choke like you mean it, but you just avoid the windpipe parts. And it's not about restricting airflow. It's just about like a dominance thing.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing I do with my dogs, actually. If they start getting completely out of line, I just grab them by the neck and hold them down to the point where they can't move. But I'm not choking my dogs.
No, of course not. Like that was the harshest story I ever heard in the whole Red Man group and the whole Red Pill sphere. The guy who had his wife kill his dog. I mean,
wow. Terrence Popp, yeah.
That's just cruel.
Yeah, and you can understand why he kind of went MGTOW for his 7-year thing there. She was
brutal. She killed his dog.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can stab me, but not the dog, you know?
Well, that's the thing. That's a level of cruelty that most, especially guys, have a hard time associating with. You'll find guys perfectly able to and willing to shoot another man, but just not touch a dog.
That's very
so for a girl to do that, it's extremely on the cruel side. Now, I know there's probably more to that story than he's letting on, but I can't think of the way that story is told where that makes the wife out to be a better person than she sounded like.
Maybe the dog had rabies and attacked her, but still.
Maybe, but at the same time, like, it's kind of his dog. And I cannot think of a way, regardless if the dog was dying of AIDS and cancer, of her putting it down against his wishes and that being a good thing.
Yeah. But there is none.
Plus the fact that she weaponized the kids against him too, so.
Yeah, but don't they all do that as soon as they get the chance?
Mm-hmm. Oh, where was it I was watching that? It was something, it had nothing to do with the sphere at all. And it was like it was a Joe Rogan podcast with, I can't remember who the guy was, just some guy, it doesn't really matter. And he was talking about how in family law, like out of all of his friends, 80% of them were accused of domestic violence or like diddling the kids at one point just so they could be weaponized for the divorce. And he's like, either guys are walking around just beating the crap out of everybody, which is highly unlikely because you would see examples of that bleeding out into everybody's like social life. Either it's completely rampant or most of this stuff is being made up. Now, I don't see violent people day in and day out, especially not to the degree that you would see it being made out in divorce court. But that's why I always had that one thought experiment. Like, I hate when people kind of jerk off about, oh, if you just change this law, everything is all right. And I'm like, all right, if you guys really want this, here's one for you. In a divorce, custody goes to the man, 100% of the time, no exceptions. And I bet you that would fix marriage relationships 100%. Well, think about it from the perspective of a girl. Yeah. Usually in a divorce, the one thing they want more than anything is custody. Custody, my kids, that's it. So you take that incentive away from a girl to be divorced, and you probably get a lot less divorce. From a guy's perspective, who may want to leave his girl for somebody else, I can't think of many guys who want to be saddled with kids without a girl there to help take care of them. Most guys don't want to be single dads. And so right there, that kind of encourages them not to go out and get a side piece and leave mom for a younger version.
True.
That's my theory. It'll never happen, but it's just one of those things I like thinking about. And I throw into somebody's face just to see how they respond to it.
Yeah. Well, it's not.
Most girls hate the idea. Most guys are kind of like, fuck, I see it.
Yeah. Well, it does make sense. I mean, well, we already know divorce laws are like absolutely not in our favor. But like, you can have the money, but I get custody. Yeah. Divorce rates will drop.
Yeah.
Insane.
And I don't like it so much because I think it's going to happen. I kind of lump that in with that MGTOW line of making women lose the vote and that'll solve all your problems. I'm like, first off, it's never going to happen. So you're just making unicorn dreams anyway.
Yeah, you can just start believing in Marxism while you're at it.
But it's kind of one of those markers where you can tell the kind of person you're talking to. Like, if the person you're talking to tells you that you need to remove the ability for women to vote, you kind of have a good idea about 90% of the other beliefs the guy has. And I find with that question too, it does the same thing. It lets you really know about a guy's perspective on relationships in general and how healthy or unhealthy it is. But yeah, so it's a lot of fun. But I will say, hi, Siv. He's another guy I follow on Twitter. He's a Catholic family lawyer. He's basically a tradcon, which is funny because I do not enjoy tradcon in any shape or form, but I really like this guy. And he brought up something that was really neat when it came to how divorce laws aren't catered towards men. He's right in that they are neutral. They're not made to benefit one particular gender on paper, but the way it manifests tends to be that way. So, for example, most divorces are initiated by women. And by the time a girl initiates a divorce, she's already been checked out for 6 months. So she's able to flip that psychopathic switch. And this is no longer the guy I love. This is just some asshole that's got my money and my kids. Meanwhile, the guy has this dumped on his lap and then immediately has to switch from this is the love of my life and we're having problems into now I have to weaponize like everything I can because this is me going to war. So in practice, what happens is you got asymmetric power in that where the girl is completely switched off, could be very cold and calculating, and the guy can't. Here you want to talk about benefits of any of these dark triad behaviors. There's one right there. As soon as a girl wants a divorce, you have to get rid of any built up emotional connection you've had over God knows how many years and instantly flip a switch and look at this person like they're coming after your life and to harm your family or whatever it is that you hold sacrosanct in your life. That person is now against that. And so I think if guys were able to flip that switch and actually be the kind of monsters that feminists accuse us of being, I would bet anything that divorce law would go a lot better for men at the same time as making those congruent decisions. So you know how guys, they always say they want to have access to their kids. That's their most important thing in life, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for example, if you know that's the case and you talk to any judge or any lawyer about during a divorce, what actions do you take that would be best geared towards you getting at least 50% custody, if not full custody? And the big things they'll mention is you can't be restricted from your career. So if you're in the military and you deploy, not happening. If you're an actor and you have to go on shoots for 3 months at a time, not happening. If you're the kind of guy who has to work 80-hour weeks, not happening. So if custody of your children in the event of a divorce is a real concern you have, then why are you doing the exact worst thing you can do by overdosing on the amount of work hours that you put in and the time apart from your children, if you know when the time comes for a divorce that that's working against you? And the girl's going to get that money as child support anyway. So you basically just decided to help somebody leave you. Like you're giving them the tools to treat you like a plow horse.
You're digging your own grave.
Yeah, and that's because you have this image in your head. This is the ego investments that the psychopath doesn't have, where you have the white picket fence mental model. I'm the provider. I bring home the bacon. She takes care of the kids, and she makes me a martini. It's that 1950s nuclear family, white picket fence. Completely unrealistic. No girl believes in it other than when it suits them. So while you're first getting married, she loves it because she gets to buy a nice house and have all these great things. And when you divorce, she likes it because you should be paying me this and you should still be working towards me, even if I'm not going to fill that my end of the bargain. Now you take a psychopathic look at that, you start to realize what's important. Now for some guys, maybe it is. Maybe their career is the greatest thing on earth. So they just have to come to terms with understanding that that's going to mean that if the mother of their children doesn't want them to have access to their kids, she's most likely going to get it. And if you're fine with that, then keep doing what you're doing. But if you're not, then you need to make some adjustments. We actually had it. We called it the beta male's divorce guide, and it's essentially putting yourself into a position where these concerns you deal with on a tactical level. So if you want access to your kids, take a job that works less hours, has more flexibility, do all the doctor's appointments, make sure you know the blood type, the name of the friends, all those little personal details. So during a divorce, when it comes time to do custody, you're like, look, I've got a book here that's logged every parenting thing I've done, this, that, and the other thing. This is the areas where the wife has been deficient and I've had to pick it up. And all of a sudden, a judge is going to look at that, same as you would look at any business contract nullification. Where do the responsibilities lie? Where do the obligations lie? And who's meeting the obligations here? So it essentially works for you, but you have to really shed your ego aside and focus. And I know it's kind of funny to think about this as like a dark triad behavior, but it kind of is if you think about it, because you're just will to power. You know what you want. And even though it's something as wholesome and as loving as family life, but if you approach it with those same attitudes, yeah.
Of course it's dark triad. I mean, you're facing the woman of your children who just went feral on you.
Mm-hmm. And she went feral 6 months ago. It's just now she's being open about it.
Yeah, like you didn't know it yet. You have to flip that switch if you want to win. Like they just roll over, show their belly, like, can I get a scratch? But you don't have to do that. It's war. It's just open war. And there's no room for empathy at that point.
I agree. And that's even if you wanted everybody to have a nice resolution out of this, you still can't approach it like that. Because let's face it, between you, a good guy who is trying to keep a family situation together, or someone else who's willing to blow up the family situation for short-term happiness or monetary gain, which one of you is in a better position to make good decisions for everybody else moving forward? So why aren't you maximizing the opportunity for that for yourself there? And then, you know what? Nobody's saying just because you have 100% custody, you can't act as if she gets access whenever and wherever she wants. Like nothing is stopping you from being as generous as you want to be. But at least you are in that position. If somebody's starting to weaponize the legal system against you, knowing that you're coming from a position of strength, it's much easier then to make sure everybody gets a proper resolution. So if you want to be a nice, like you said, if you want to be a nice guy, be capable of not being a nice guy first. And then your niceness will matter. And that's a perfect example of it.
Yeah, because if you've been nice all the way, all the gestures in the world won't help.
I agree. And we've seen examples of that.
Oh, yeah. Like, God, guys should really read this. Just embrace your inner psychopath. Really. No, that's just the point. Like, if she goes feral on you, the only thing you can do is go feral back, only in a more calculated manner. That's the last thing she'll expect.
Everybody's always saying how men are better than women and everything. Well, just put up or shut up. If you are, then act like it.
Yes.
And if not, then maybe they deserve to be running over you because you clearly were able to let them.
Yeah, Tanner says that greatly. He's like, I know that the courts are against me and blah, 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 but that doesn't mean I shouldn't take responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. I think we should wrap it up about the book. Any last things you have to say? Like, why should guys read it? Go.
The reason you should, well, it would be beneficial for you to read it so you can understand the ideas of self-interest. Too many guys are very selfless. And that's a good quality. I mean, nobody can fault a guy for being kind and selfless. But at the same time, it's very easy to be taken advantage of. And so it's really nice to take lessons from somebody who is basically the best at selfish self-interest and take the lessons from that so you can apply them to your life in a way that is beneficial to you. That, and if you got some toilet time, it's only a couple hours read. And every guy looks cool when they have like a wolf on the cover of your book. It says psychopaths on it. It's like having Sun Tzu, The Art of War on your bookshelf. It makes you look very cool.
Yeah, makes you look smart. People
yeah,
do
very
want
smart.
People
it's like
do
philosophy minus all the big jargon.
People do turn their heads when you're reading it in a train or somewhere else. Where can people find you?
As for always, it's most of my social media is _Ryan_Stone. That's Twitter. That's Instagram. YouTube is just youtube.com/c/Ryan Stone. And then there's always my site, ryanstone.com. You'll have the /blog for my blog. You'll have /store for, I'm actually starting some merch now. I've been ordering custom Wayfarer shades for the longest time. And so I figured I ordered an extra shipment here. And if anybody else wants a pair, they're more than welcome to get them there. I have discount codes in my email list if you sign up to that. And that's ryanstone.com/newsletter. If you sign up to nothing else, do it to that. It's free. It's where I do most of my work with guys, and it's where I share most of the value that I give, because there is the one place I don't have to worry about being banned from social media. So,
and take it from me, the newsletter is valuable. Everybody, thank you for listening. Ryan, thank you for doing this. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and we will talk to you soon.